Welcome to the workroom. Today we're going to go over forward graduation, whatever you want to call it. All this is typically, all you need to think about with forward grad is it's just a connection between a focal point, whether that be its own focal, making its own focal point, or whether that be the connection between the focal point of the fringe or bang or whatever you want to call it. So it just depends on what we're doing. So if I have the side of the head here, right, and I'm starting to, if I have like a sweeping bang or something that's coming across and out, right, all I'm trying to do is, and I have a length down here, is do some sort of connection. So I might, if the exit point of the bang is somewhere in that region, I might drop it about a 3/4 of an inch to an inch, depending, depends on how long the hair is, and then dropping it straight down into my length. And that's all I'm trying to do is do some connection between the two, so you don't just have that and then bang down to a length, which even looks strange in a drawing. So you will see these haircuts. I'm always going to do some type of forward graduation on almost everybody. Even if I one length someone, I will typically come down and just soften that corner. It just takes the curse off of that weird point that comes in there. That point, to me, when the corner is too strong that it points, that point for me is like really unattractive to the eye. So I just come in and take it off. This is totally up to you. Hairdressing is what you make it and what your personal taste level is. I can't teach you taste. I can't teach you my taste, and you don't need to have my taste. You just have to develop your own thing. All hairdressing is taking a bunch of knowledge and distilling it into what you want it to be. This is why I hate brands. I hate like ideas that like you are this brand or you are that brand. It's a totally ridiculous idea and concept. And typically it's for hairdressers who haven't been in the industry long enough to start thinking properly or to have the experience to think in a way. So don't let other people like dictate what your hairdressing career is. Make it yours. The only person that matters on the entire planet is the guest. How they feel about your hair is 100% of hairdressing. If they like it, it's right. I don't care how many people come over and tell you that your sectioning patterns weren't clean enough or small enough, or you didn't elevate them enough, or whatever they're gonna say. This isn't academia. This is hairdressing. It's a blue-collar trade. Let it be simple. Let it be beautiful. Let it be undone. Like, that's my whole thing. It's like, let it be undone. Let it be pretty. Let it look like they woke up today and they just popped out of bed and were sexy as hell. That's all that matters. That being said, before I get off on a rant, forward graduation. So I'm going to do this without the bang. It's just going to show you a little bit better. So typically, I'm gonna section off the back, all right? So I will almost never do 4 sections. It's always 3, back, weak side, strong side. So on forward graduation, right, like forward graduation, I'm gonna do some diagonal backs. What I'm gonna do is make sure I have like a good chunk of hair on that diagonal back there from the front of the hairline. So it's typically about the size of my comb. It will be larger if I need more hair. With the recession area, when I pull that down, I want the recession area, or enough of that recession area in my first section, that I don't have a hole here when I'm holding it down here to cut. Okay, there's nothing more annoying, because you have to basically guess your cut from here to here, and that's just ridiculous. We don't need to do that. If they don't have enough hair, add more hair. I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. I do this in one full section on both sides on the floor because I can control it better. I bring it down to one. I can cut the whole thing. I can control all that hair, and I can slide my scissors through the hair in a way that, like, I know that I'm holding it at shape fall exactly, and I'm doing it one time, and I'm putting my shape in from my entrance point to my exit point all the way through, and that line is perfectly straight up and down. All right, and that's what I'm trying to do so I don't get any fingers. So what I don't want to see, and this is what I see a lot in the world, is people kind of C-carve this out, right? But the problem is you've created a weight line here now. So visually, what the client's looking at from the mirror back to their line is they now see a weight line coming across here horizontally. So I avoid that over the years. This was fine in the Friends era because we wanted those fingers in. It's no longer fine. We don't want those fingers in. We want that to come off and blend straight down, right? It's just a more new age way of thinking about hairdressing, and it just makes more sense overall because we just want to open up that face. We don't ever want to close that face down. We almost always want the hair to kind of come back away from the face loosely. It accentuates focal points and it makes it look sexy. So you're always trying to open it up. And if you are like, you know, like I like little tendril bits underneath and stuff, and you want to put something like that coming in towards the face underneath, by all means do it. There's always a decision that can be made that will suit your personal taste. Coming straight up and down on this line, entrance point, exit point. So what you'll see me do a lot of times, especially when they come back for that second haircut, is I just kind of attack the top really, and I'm usually off before I get down to this corner. So my whole thing is I want this corner here to be as strong as possible, and all of that hair comes out right there, right? So once again, you're starting to see what I'm thinking about is where every bit of hair comes into my finished shape fall. All right, so I know that this here is my weight line, or my weight on the corner. All right, and I know this hair up here starts to become this, and I know this hair up here is all of my hair there at the top, right? And then I have to know when I come through here on my next section, so my next section would also be a diagonal back, right? So all of this hair here is my length. All of this hair here starts to be my weight over top of the corner, and all of this hair here starts to be my weight somewhere just on top of the entrance. It's kind of the weight of the entrance, and then it can also be the length right past the length, the entrance, which would also kind of cover up your recession area and strengthen that line up a little bit, which is also why I kind of do this all at one thing. This corner here, which is really interesting that it pops out like this. This is typically on the weak side and the strong side really, like maybe you'll incorporate a little more, but that's basically my layering on the front. So you're basically gonna have your bangs, right? Your corner, your length, your weight, and your layers. So hopefully you can make heads or tails of this, but this corner here, and you can make it bigger, or this triangle here, you can make it bigger or whatnot, but that's typically your layering pattern. So you might steal a little more from this hair underneath on thicker hair, and you might borrow from it to become a stronger forward graduation on thinner hair. So that's not super complicated, but you'll start to see more of that later on as we get into layering, so let's not like beat it like a dead horse right now. So all you're thinking about, entrance point, exit point. All you want with this entrance point is to figure out what you're trying to pop, okay? Are you trying to let it close down underneath, like just below? If it's really long hair, I'm probably gonna shoot for either just below the chin or to open up the chin. In order to open up the chin, if the chin was coming out here, right, I'm gonna actually start my layering just above the point I want to open up. Because by the time it sits down and it kind of sways back, it will start to round on that chin. So I usually go just above the point I'm trying to open up. If you go to it, a lot of times it will close it down. You'll get a little bit too much weight. You'll spend too much time leaving that there because you wanted it to start right at that point, instead of now slicing through dry to alleviate and let that top of that entrance point move a little bit, right? You'll spend a lot of time trying to keep it heavy, which will be like harsh on the eye and then harsh on the face, because you're now almost closing down that point that you were trying to open up, okay? So and then from there, like you can use any point in between, but I typically am using the cheek, I'm using the cheek, the lips, and the chin typically. Anything else in there, it's kind of ridiculous. You're just thinking about shape at that point. So you're just like what you want the hair and how you want it to bend and how you want it to turn out and where you want it to turn out. Don't think about, okay, I want it like somewhere between the top lip and the nose. Like, that's ridiculous. That's not something you're gonna point out. And you're never gonna try to pull out someone's nose. That's also old school and ridiculous. Just those 3 points are what you're trying to hit. And anything in there, you could do haircuts that do all of those things. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is typically simplify. Those are your 3 points. You're just getting going. Learn to control what you can right off the bat, and you won't go wrong. And then later you can do whatever you want, and you know, we'll call you an artist. All right, so you're gonna see me do this in one section because I won't do this in more than one section. But if you have too much hair, feel free to make it 3 sections. Feel free to make it 2 diagonal back sections, whatever you want to do. But really, let's just concentrate on shapefall and concentrate on that line. So now I'm going to go through foregrad with you on a shape. All right, guys. So we're going to finish up this. Foregrad on her. Basically, what I would do is I'm trying to figure out where I want it to enter and where I want it to exit. So most of the time I'm exiting right above my corner just to leave that little pinch of weight there. A lot of times with people, you're really just kind of opening up the top, and then you're usually off by the bottom because that bit gets so fine. So I'm usually, especially if they're my own guest and they're coming back in for trims, I'm really just cutting the top of that a lot of times just to open it right back up to where I had it before. But basically I'm gonna establish my forward graduation, and just all I'm trying to do is take the curse off of a 1 length that I have on here. That's it. It's nothing more, nothing less. I'm just trying to connect focal point to length. Simple. So I'm gonna work with shapefall, so meaning I'm gonna try to get this back to where it would sit, and then I'm just gonna cut there. Now notice I'm not pulling everything super tight. I'm gonna be loose, and then I'm gonna slide cut this haircut. So you can interchange scissors with razor here if you want. I'll do more razor cuts later in the project cuts. I like doing these techniques with the scissors so you learn how to control them first. It's a little easier to control with a scissor. So I'm just gonna hold her here, and then I'm gonna come across right down, and notice I'm gonna be right where I want it to sit, right? Like she doesn't wear her hair in front of her face, so we're not gonna cut it in front of her face. Like, that's natural fall, that's not what I do. Shape fall is what I do. All right, so bringing it back, and then I'm gonna leave this longer because I have some bangs and stuff that I wanna cut in this. This is exactly the process of my education program, my apprentice program. So I've done this so often, I know what haircuts are next and what shapes are next. So I know that I'm gonna leave this longer just so the guys on their mannequins aren't chopping these off right away, and we're only getting 1 or 2 haircuts out of these things. So what I'm trying to do is, I think there's about 10 haircuts, and then we go to another mannequin and finish up the program. But so I'm just gonna hold this down at shapefall. I'm gonna bring my fingers down with the shape, and then kind of up slightly from shapefall. Okay, and that up slightly will allow my scissors to get in there and give them the tension to just slide through this like butter. So I'm just gonna find where the blade tension is starting to happen on the blade, and then slide through. So, and then I was off. I didn't cut that last like inch or so of the hair. And so all I'm doing is kind of opening that shape up now in the front. And it's just straight up and straight down. Just a little twist, so I'm gonna walk through it again. So just putting my fingers there, I'm at kind of a diagonal, not there, but at a diagonal where I think it's gonna sit, and then raising up to me slightly, and then walking slowly down. And my fingers don't hold all the way through, I just walk my fingers down with the blade, so basically it all sits together and moves in tandem. And then I'm off before I get that corner. So in order to strengthen that corner, I can come back in and I just go straight up and down one time like that. Or a lot of times I don't want to touch it at all because I want as much strength as I can in that. And that's your personal choice. And then I'm shaping it and moving on to the next section. Now you would have the option here to do this in several sections if you want. But if you notice, I can manipulate all of this hair fairly easy, and I'd rather it be right, and I'm visually going, okay, what do I want this to do? Instead of overthinking sectioning patterns and trying to like follow sectioning patterns perfectly, I've skipped that step and I'm just visually figuring out what I want to cut. And that's far easier. Now, I don't sit down on this, I'm just doing it to stay in frame. But typically I will sit down on the length, depending on how long it is, because I want to be as close to eye level as possible. So just to show you, I'm going to be here, coming down, and then my hands are now on this side back to back. So this one's a little harder to get because you have to learn how to push the scissors forward and up and then get down, right? So it takes a little time to do. So on one side, we're behind this, and then on the other side, we're holding like that. Or you can hold it like that and do it down if you want, if that's more comfortable. It's up to you. I find that it's far more comfortable for me to hold like this and then visually start to open up that forward grad. And one of the things that I do is I'm not trying to be perfect from one side to the other most of the time. All right, and so all I'm trying to do with that forward grad is make sure that my corner is still as strong as possible, because I can always melt that down if I want later. But what I never want to do is lose the strength of that while I'm in my wet cut. I can't see the full shape yet, how it's going to live on her, so I don't want to make a decision that could possibly alter the whole thing and compromise it later for that dry cut. So here you might start to see me do things like the strong side. I always want that to be slightly shorter than the weak side, just because there's going to be more hair there and I want that to open up. And if these two are perfectly balanced, I find it looks kind of strange to the eye. Or if you try to cut them perfectly balanced, this side will pop up ever so slightly, and that's really strange to the eye because the weak side is now like higher than the strong side. So it doesn't make any sense to the eye. So that's typically what I'm looking at. And then the other thing I'm looking at here is always going to be, and see if you can see that, it's always going to be the strength of the top of the entrance point. So I might make a decision to just soften the entrance point, and that's going to really like bend that back. So I want that kink in there at the first, I want it to knuckle at a point, and it's just all a visual point for me. So it makes, usually it's got more to do with how their hair naturally is bending at that point than anything else. And you will see me like finger hair to death because I want to see how it's going to live like at the end. I'm just softening that entrance point ever so slightly. And here's could be a bit where you just like put a random bit in there just to, so it's not so perfect or something. You might make that decision later on. But I really like how that shape's going. I'm always working there instead of flattening. Because a lot of times I want to be able to like make a decision if I want, and that texture is awesome. I want to be able to show them that like boom right there, they could just diffuse this or let it air dry the rest of the way off. If their hair is saturated properly with product, they can air dry this off and you're almost into a style right off the bat. That's our forward graduation. Super simple, keep it simple. Entrance point, exit point, think about how much weight you want on the corners. That's all there is, that's all we're doing. Everything else is just about making the haircut dance from here. You're just working on the perimeter, one length, forward graduation, bang incorporated in there. Here we don't have a bang, just letting it be loose, letting it be lovely. Don't overcut, don't comb everything flat, like you're not seeing anything of what you're doing there. I'm a firm believer we don't wear hair like flat against our head, so don't comb it flat against your head. Just really think about how you're holding there, getting your scissors on there right, and you're going to open and close that blade until you find that tension point and just let it slide through like butter. It just takes a little bit of time getting that right angle, getting the right tension. If you have any questions about that, hit me up. I know this is a lot of information. It's impossible to show it perfectly. We could do some break-off videos later if people want to see that technique all by itself. Just hit me up and I'll make that video. Make sure that people want that first. right now we're concentrated on all these apprenticeship videos. For graduation is key. It's something we do on almost every haircut. It's how we incorporate it's basically, to me, like the bitters of like cocktail. You put like a couple drops of bitters in and it kind of blends everything together. That's what forward graduation is for me. It should be loose, it should have life, it should be straight up and down, it shouldn't have fingers coming in towards the face. Just let it have that life, and hopefully your guests will love that. And I hope you learned something from this information today. I know it came at you fast. Hit me up if you like it. Thanks.